Hello again, everybody. So today we're going to continue again with our series of question and answers. Should be a little bit quieter today as it's a Sunday and we don't have much going on out in the shop, so maybe the sound will be a little bit better. So without further ado, here we go. Bernard Gavre just watched Jim's Q&A video from April 16th. He says, what did Jim say do that you had to straighten him out with a punch to the left eye? That's directed towards Catherine, and he wants to avoid it with his wife. So although that could have been a possibility, it actually wasn't. It was shingles, believe it or not. So they're pretty much gone, which is good. Did a little bit of lingering nerve pain, but we're pretty much beyond that. So it's not too bad right now. And a little bit of a black eye from our 2-year-old son. So, yeah. Okay. Mark Natali says, when using bone black to darken a stock, do you use it in successive coats or do you use just the finish between coats of bone black? What is the best finish to use the bone black with? Is permanent okay? That's a good question. It is best to put the bone black on and turn it to get it all, and you're not going to get all the color you want in one coat. So you can build it up, and I generally like to kind of seal it between coats of finish. One thing that can be a little difficult is if the finish has a lot of solvents with it, it can tend to attack your previous coat of finish, and you can end up kind of dissolving it a little bit and smearing around your bone black. So I sometimes try to use a finish that's not, that it has fewer solvents in it, something such as tried and true oil varnish, and it doesn't tend to attack the previous coat quite as bad. You can do it with other finishes that have more solvents, but it can just be a little tricky. But it is good to kind of alternate. You know, you can darken a layer of finish in certain areas, and then I like to kind of seal it in with another coat of finish and then keep building it up a little bit. And with that said, it's generally best to try to get most of your color on fairly early. If you try to like just stain your stock and then put a bunch of coats of finish on it and then think you're gonna, you know, just use bone black at the end, it doesn't work too good because you've sealed everything in and your wood is pretty smooth. You have a layer of finish. It doesn't have much to grab hold of. So try to get most of your color early on. He asks, is permalin okay? It does have solvents with it. You just have to be real careful. You don't want to put it on and rub it a lot. You just want to get it on lightly. So that'd be my best advice. Okay, from Scott Armstrong. Hello, Scott. He says, this is for your Q&A videos. Would you offer a mountain rifle with a shorter barrel, say 40 or 42? So he thinks the 46 is a little bit cumbersome. So the answer is no. It's just too hard to make adjustments to our process. So whatever our standard is what we're going to be set with. Excuse me. And then he votes for a Highend kit, which is very likely going to happen here at some point. And we're going to try to focus not so much on what the upcoming products will be because we've just kind of beat that horse to death, but we may mention it here and there in the rest of these videos. Okay, thanks, Scott. Nigel Kavanaugh says, thanks for taking the time to do these videos. He finds our honesty to be interesting and refreshing, and thank you for that, because you know, sometimes we may offend people a little bit, but we try to be honest here, and I think that we are. That's just sort of our style. So thanks. He asks, are our barrels seasoned or hardened in any way, and how is it done? So no, the barrels are not seasoned in any way or hardened. I think the idea of seasoning a barrel is kind of bogus. And for these barrels, if they're ductile, kind of soft and ability to change in shape without fracturing, it's a good thing. So no, they're not hardened in any way. So thank you, Nigel. Kenyon Myers asked, with the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution coming up, would you consider making a kit musket for the first and second model Brown Bess? And perhaps, a Brown Bess is something that had rattled around in my brain a little bit, but there doesn't seem to be a big amount of interest from what I can feel, but you never know. And especially with the 250th anniversary coming up, that might be something to consider, I don't know. I'm not sure how big the 250th anniversary will be here in this country. I guess it's another 6 years, so we'll see. I don't know. If anybody has any ideas with regard to that in terms of, what might work well for our business with that, let us know. How about tips for working and finishing cherry wood, from Sam Lanter? So cherry can be pretty nice. It can be a little bit brittle, and by brittle I mean when you're trying to cut across the grain, it can want to break. The sheer strength of it is kind of a little less than what you'd experience working with maple or walnut. But nice tight grain cherry is good wood. So if you're doing any cutting, along the end grain of cherry wood, make sure your tools are very sharp. That would be a tip. And finishing cherry wood, I don't have a great deal of experience. I'm trying to remember if I've ever even finished a gun in cherry wood, and I don't know that I have. I don't think that I have. But sometimes people like to use a lye solution on the wood to bring it out the red colors, to make it very red. You could use aniline dyes to adjust the color if you want. Of course, exposure to the sunlight brings out the color of cherry and darkens it over time. So if you're patient, there's really no, that's the best way, just to wait, maybe expose it to sunlight. And one other thing that I've not messed with, but some folks that are real knowledgeable told me about, was the use of, I can't remember what it was now. Do you remember? There's a chemical that'll speed the oxidation of the cherry.
Dichrome or something?
Potassium dichromate. Yeah. It will basically speed the oxidation. So it'll be the same effect as the sunlight, but it just happens very fast. But it's kind of a dangerous chemical, I understand. But it could be something to look into. Potassium dichromate. We bought some, but we never even have tried it. So, but thanks for the question. And thanks for jogging my memory there, Catherine. Okay, from Todd Young. How do you sharpen a scraper? I have a video that shows a little bit of that being done. And also, if you just go to YouTube and type that in, you'll find lots of videos on that. I just saw one the other day that was pretty good. So basically the idea is to get a square corner to start with on your scraper with file and some stones, and then roll over a burr with a hardened steel burnisher. It's pretty much the process in a nutshell. But thanks for the question, Todd. Okay, Brian McGuire. He assembled one of our rifles at the NMLRA seminar last year, and he damaged the screw that holds the hammer, so the screw that goes into the tumbler. He's asking where he can get a replacement, and where can I get a screwdriver thin enough to fit? Okay, so at that stage, that would have been a lock from Jim Chambers Flintlocks, so they would have the replacements. We don't have any replacement parts for any of their components that we had used in the past. We're not using any Chambers locks anymore. And as far as where to get a screwdriver thin enough to fit it, they are very narrow slots. You have a couple choices. You can take a knife file and open up the slot a little bit, or you can find a very narrow screwdriver somewhere, or you can even take a regular screwdriver and grind it down a little bit on a belt sander or a grinder to make it fit the slot. So there's some good options. Okay. Let's see here. Brian Drake, he says he came across our website while researching builders. Are you currently taking order to build custom guns? And he's asking about general pricing and time. So the answer is no. Our business is growing and we're very busy. And the custom work takes a long time. And to be honest, it's not as profitable. I probably couldn't afford to take the pay cut, and I wouldn't be able to get stuff out the door. So kits are our business right now. That may change sometime in the future, but we're not taking any full custom rifles. Occasionally, but rarely, we do finish a rifle here and there in the shop. But and those are just our kits that we finish, but it's not very often at all. But thank you for asking, and that could change in the future. We're sort of rattling around the idea of perhaps trying to hire a gunsmith, somebody that that has good skills, energetic, that could do some of that work for us here in the shop. But I don't know if that's going to happen either, but we'll see. But thanks for the question, Brian. Okay. Robert Bogg says, why are there always pits in cast brass? Though from my limited experience, 2 Kibler kits, your brass is better than most. So ours does sometimes have pits in it. A lot of those pits file out when you give the brass a light filing. Sometimes you end up with defects. They're castings, and cast products are prone to have defects. Some foundries are better than others, but that's just sometimes a consequence. So if you have something you don't like, just let us know and we'll replace it. I don't get too bent out of shape about small defects in the brass. I don't find them too offensive or anything, but some people do, and that's okay. Some people want it, to be perfect, and that's fine, But for me, if it has I tend to age the brass a little bit, and if it has a few little pits or something like that's not big, I don't find that it affects the overall appearance. It sometimes helps it maybe. Okay, so he says, what's the single most significant thing I can do to make a Colonial rifle kit stand out above the rest? So in terms of how he finishes it, I'd say definitely the carving would be the most significant thing. So carving can take quite a bit of time, but it can really add a lot to the rifle. Even simple things like lock moldings and maybe a toe line, maybe a little carving around the comb, but some carving that's also fits with the rifle. So study original work. Get books. Rifles of Colonial America is a good choice, and some appropriate carving will definitely make it stand out above the rest. Appropriate that's well executed. One thing we may do in time, I'm not sure, is try to come up with some kind of patterns for carving. I'm a little hesitant on that because, it's, I don't know. It's good for people to try to learn the basics of drawing a simple design. So I'm kind of torn both ways on that, but it might be something that we can do. Figure out a way to maybe even transfer the image from paper to the wood, and I know there's some techniques that can be used. So that might be something that we could offer in the future and help with. As far as carving, we do offer a little kit that is an introduction to carving and kind of gives steps, and we have a little cast of a carving example. And interestingly enough, the carving cast is probably one of the most important things, but some people tend just to buy the book and the wood. The cast maybe is a little pricey, but it's probably the most important thing, because you can actually look at the carving, and when you're looking at a book, it's hard to understand it. So the carving casts are a real good thing to kind of understand what the carving should look like. So what we did is we carved a master, and then we made a mold off of that master, and then we pour a plastic resin into that mold and reproduce the carving, and we kind of stain it to look like the carving. So it's pretty neat, pretty representative of what the actual carving I did looks like. So thanks for the good questions, Robert Boggs. So Mark, he asks if I was to build a Flintlock high-end pistol, what would it be like? I don't really know. Part of me thinks it's something like a, real high-end Manton dueling pistol would be neat, but I don't know for sure. We'll have to see. Okay. He says this is Bruce Lundgren. He says he filed and fitted, he must have assembled a rifle, and he says he filed and fitted the trigger before finishing to provide the proper play, and it was okay. But a month or so later, after I put the finish on the trigger, it was binding, perhaps expansion in the wood. I re-drilled the pinhole, but it's still binding. Should I file the top of the trigger again as I did initially? It's hard to know from the description, so that it might seem like a simple response, but the key is to try to understand what's going wrong. So if there's no play between the top of the trigger and the sear, then you'll need to file a little bit off the top of the trigger. But if there's some kind of binding from wood or maybe corrosion from the finishing process of the trigger, then that'll have to be addressed. So try to find out what's causing the binding and then attack that. And if you have any more questions, you can get with any of you guys that I've tried to answer the questions. If you have want more specific help, just give me a call. That's a great way that I can help you out. Okay. So Douglas says, I have zero experience kit building. Where should I start? What rifle, Fowler, musket should I start with? What tools will I need? So you could start with about anything, whatever you would like to start with, it'd be fine. And the tools needed, we do have a tool list, but the tool list is pretty extensive. So it's the tools that I usually use, and I have lots of tools at my disposal. So I made a list of the tools I used, but you don't need to use all those tools. So at some point here, I think I'm going to put together a condensed tool list of what you really need, and because I don't want people to think they have to go out and buy hundreds of dollars worth of tools. So we'll probably put together a list, and we're even kind of pondering the idea of, just maybe even buying just a few tools, just a basic kit. You could get the tools from maybe like Lowe's or Home Depot or something, and then putting one together on our kitchen table as a demonstration, which would probably be very well received and useful. So we're probably going to do that sometime. But thanks for the question, Doug. Okay, let's see here. So probably, I'm not sure where we are with time, but we're probably starting to run down a little bit. So I'm going to pick one more question, and then let's see here. We'll just do this one here, and then we'll just wrap it up. So Doug Robertson, he says, hello, Jim and Catherine. So he says, loves the videos. I've been hearing lots of folks singing your praises. Well, thank you. Especially his good friend Keith Stone from Oregon. So thanks, Keith, as well. A video using your patina solution would be nice. Yeah, it would. We have some footage we took of using it. I think we do have a video. We do, yeah. So check out our YouTube channel, and I think you'll be able to find that video on using the patina solution. Okay, and he says another video demonstrating drilling the lock bolts. The tang and lugs or thimbles would be fantastic. So right now, the good news is the lock bolts are drilled and tapped. So someone putting together our kits won't have to worry about that. So that's real good. Tang holes in the trigger plate holes are also drilled and tapped, so you won't have to worry about that. Now lugs are not drilled, and before too long they will be. So I know I've been saying that for a while, but it's one of the things that we're going to be doing. There's some challenges with making that happen, but it's something I want to do. Thimbles on our Colonial rifle are already drilled. I think it's been working out pretty well for people. Not the case on the mountain rifle, but we can. So at some point we will. But a video in the meantime might be a good idea. So I'm not sure when all this is going to happen. But yeah, good ideas, because those are some tricky parts. And drilling a hole, you think drilling a hole is easy, but we've found that, or at least in our experience, that's some of the areas that we've had trouble with here in production, and I'm sure other people have trouble with that too. It seems very simple, but it's not always so simple. So thanks for the question, Doug. And with that, we're gonna wrap it up for the day, and you know, we still have more of these, so we'll keep on going. Any more questions, just let us know. We can include them with the next video or the video after that, but let us know and we'll try to help you out. Thanks a bunch. Bye.